The yacht stayed in the pool until Sunday afternoon. We threw a block party around it. Kids wore pirate hats. Neighbors took selfies. It wasn't just a protest anymore. It was a celebration. A neighborhood reborn. The new HOA board rewrote the rules. Transparent budgets. Fair enforcement. Real community input. Freedom was repaired and restored, with the entire community pitching in to help. The HOA reimbursed my damages, with Veronica's seized personal funds after the audit found embezzlement. Veronica herself? Facing criminal charges for misappropriation of HOA funds. Last I heard, she moved 3 towns over, ironically into a neighborhood with no HOA at all. Underscore 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 underscore. 6 months later, Mia and I sat on Freedom, docked by the lake. The sun was setting. The breeze was soft. "Would you do it again?" she asked, smiling. "In a heartbeat," I said. Not because I like drama. Not because I like being the center of attention. But because some things are worth fighting for. And sometimes, the only way to fight injustice is with a bigger boat. So if you're ever wondering if one person can make a difference, if one act of defiance can spark real change, just remember this story. And remember, sometimes the sweetest revenge floats. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from, and hey, share your wild HOA stories. I'd love to hear them. And don't forget, sometimes, it takes a yacht to rock the boat. We picked Saturday morning at 5 a.m. While the neighborhood slept, Victor drove the massive yacht into position. Elaine's nightmare, that's what we named her, floated down the street like the ghost of every wronged neighbor coming for revenge. We had clearance. We had legal arguments ready. We even had donuts and coffee for the confused early risers. By 6:30 a.m., the yacht was anchored right in the middle of the community pool. Banners flapping in the breeze. Freedom can't be towed. Your rules, your pool. Enjoy. Transparency now. Neighbors woke up to texts, photos, laughter spreading like wildfire. Then Veronica arrived. And let me tell you, the look on her face was priceless. She screamed. She threatened. She called the police. But by the time Officer Daniels showed up, the damage wasn't physical. It was political. Officer Daniels glanced at the yacht, shrugged, and said, "Nothing illegal here. Civil dispute at best." The cameras rolled. The neighbors gathered. And for the first time ever, people weren't whispering about Veronica behind closed doors. They were laughing. They were cheering. By noon, it was clear the spell was broken. One by one, neighbors came forward. Bill Johnson, fined $2,000 because his daughter's lemonade stand violated commercial activity rules. Mrs. Gonzalez, nearly bankrupted because Veronica made her repaint her house 3 times in one summer. The Millers, almost forced into foreclosure over a garden gnome. Every grudge, every slight, every petty cruelty, it all came pouring out. Walter stood on the pool deck, legal paperwork in hand, and called for an emergency vote. Within 2 hours, Veronica was voted out as HOA president. Douglas, her second in command, resigned under threat of investigation. Wade from Bennett Towing was banned from community contracts. The new board, led by Mia, immediately suspended all fines issued in the past 6 months and launched an independent audit. Veronica? She tried to bluff and bluster, until she realized no one was following her anymore. Not Douglas. Not Wade. Not even her own friends. She slinked away that afternoon, defeated and humiliated, while Elaine's nightmare floated proudly in the pool behind her. underscore 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 underscore. That night, I called Mia. I must have sounded different because her first words were, "Marcus, what happened?" When I told her, she was silent for a long time. Then she said, "It's time." And that's when Operation Yacht Drop was born. I wasn't just going to fight the HOA in court. I was going to make sure the entire neighborhood saw what kind of monsters were running Whispering Pines. The plan was crazy. Insane, even. But it was perfect. We found the loophole first. No boats allowed on driveways for more than 48 hours. No boats allowed in the common areas. But absolutely nothing about boats being prohibited inside the community pool. That was their mistake. Their arrogance. And I was about to sail a 40-foot reminder right into their front yard. Underscore 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 underscore. I couldn't do this alone. I reached out to the few neighbors I trusted. Walter Greaves, a retired law professor. Natalie Gomez, the HOA secretary who hated Veronica but feared losing her job. Victor Ramirez, a professional tow truck operator who had been fined into oblivion for parking his truck outside his own house. Each one agreed immediately. "I've been waiting 10 years for this," Walter said, smiling as he sipped his coffee. We planned everything down to the minute. A rented yacht from a friend of mine in the marina. Specialized tow equipment. Banners and flyers explaining every violation Veronica had committed. Local news stations tipped off anonymously. Legal documents prepared in advance if Veronica tried to have us arrested. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about everyone she had bullied into silence for years. Mia, shy Mia, became the fiercest of us all. Her design skills helped plan how the banners would look. Her connections brought the right people at the right time. Her courage lit a fire under everyone. This wasn't rebellion. This was revolution. Underscore 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 underscore. The violation letters started coming faster. Your mailbox is one shade too dark. $50 fine. Your grass is a quarter inch too long. $75 fine. Your hose is improperly coiled. $100 fine. It wasn't about rules. It was about power. Control. And it was about breaking me. Each fine felt like another slice across skin already stretched thin by divorce, debt, and exhaustion. It triggered the same anxiety spirals I thought I'd escaped, chest tightening, hands shaking, that inner voice whispering, maybe you don't belong anywhere. But then I'd look at freedom. And I'd remember. You fought for her. You're not giving up now. I started documenting everything. Photos. Videos. Every blade of grass measured. Every hose coil photographed. Every single interaction logged. If they were going to try and break me, I was going to make damn sure they couldn't lie about it. Underscore 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 underscore. One Wednesday morning, I woke up and knew something was wrong. You ever feel it before you even look outside? That gut punch before your eyes even confirm it? I threw open the curtains and stared in disbelief. Freedom was gone. At first, I thought maybe she'd been stolen. Heart racing, hands shaking, I called the police. But when the officer pulled up, he wasn't sympathetic. "Sir," he said, flipping through his little notebook, "your boat wasn't stolen. It was towed by order of the Whispering Pines HOA. No warning. No final notice. No chance to even fight it. Veronica and her cronies had simply taken my boat. The one thing I fought through hell to keep. Gone." That afternoon, I went down to Bennett Towing, ready to pay whatever ransom they demanded. $800 in towing fees. $750 in storage fines. And when they rolled Freedom out, my stomach dropped. Scratches all over the hull. A cracked wheel on the trailer. And worst of all, my father's old fishing lures, the ones we'd collected together, missing. Something broke in me then. And for once, it wasn't sadness. It was anger. Pure, focused, righteous anger. They hadn't just taken a boat. They had declared war on the wrong man. The first warning came when I parked Freedom in my driveway one weekend. According to the HOA bylaws, boats could stay in the driveway for 48 hours max, enough time for cleaning, maintenance, whatever. I made sure to time it perfectly. Saturday morning to Sunday evening. No violation. No problem. Or so I thought. I was polishing Freedom's hull, soaking in the rare feeling of peace, when Veronica swooped in like a hawk spotting a field mouse. "Clipboard ready." "Mr. Hayes," she said, pursing her lips. "Watercraft are permitted only for 48 hours. I suggest you review Section 7, Paragraph 3. I smiled and said, "Already did, ma'am. I'm right on schedule." Her eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that," she said, clicking away in her designer heels. That should have been the end of it. But no. That was just the beginning. That same evening, my neighbor stopped by with a plate of cookies. Mia Collins. Third-grade teacher, 2 doors down, and possibly the only other sane person in the neighborhood. She glanced over her shoulder like she was delivering top-secret intel. "I saw Veronica at your place earlier," she said in a low voice. "Be careful. She doesn't like people who don't fall in line." I laughed it off. "I survived divorce court," I said. "How bad could she be?" Mia just gave me a look, a mix of sympathy and "you poor, clueless fool." We ended up sitting on the porch that night, swapping horror stories about exes and tyrants. Turns out, Mia had her own share of battles with an ex who tried to control every aspect of her life. And now, a different kind of control freak ruled her neighborhood. It didn't feel like flirting. It felt like 2 battered souls finding shelter from the storm in each other's stories. At the time, I thought that was just a pleasant evening. Looking back, it was the beginning of a team that would eventually take down an empire. 3 days after moving in, I'm unloading boxes when I see her. Veronica Klein. Tall, silver-haired, crisp tennis outfit that probably costs more than my mortgage payment, clipboard in hand. The way she strutted across my lawn, you'd think she owned the entire zip code. "Welcome to Whispering Pines," she said, with a smile so sharp you could cut your hand on it. "I'm Veronica Klein, HOA President." I wiped my hands and shook hers, trying to be polite. She handed me a welcome packet, 30 pages thick, detailing every little thing I wasn't allowed to do. Where my trash can could sit. What shade of beige my house could be. The correct height of my grass. You know, real freedom-loving stuff. I laughed it off at first. After everything I'd been through, how bad could an HOA really be? Hint, bad. Very bad. 6 months ago, my life was a wreck. Not a fender bender, not a scratch on the bumper kind of wreck. I'm talking head-on collision with fate type of wreck. I'm Marcus Hayes, 38 years old, landscape architect by trade, emotional disaster by circumstance. Fresh off a brutal divorce where my ex-wife Amanda took almost everything. The house. The savings. My business partner, who, by the way, she was secretly seeing behind my back. Yeah. Real classy. I barely scraped together enough to buy a small fixer-upper in a community called Whispering Pines Estates. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And most importantly, it had a driveway long enough to park my one remaining possession that meant anything to me. Freedom. That's what I named my boat. A 22-foot fishing boat that my dad and I had built years ago, long before life went sideways. When the lawyers started slicing up my life, I fought harder for freedom than I did for the house. Amanda never even liked fishing. She never even set foot on that boat. But she wanted it because she knew what it meant to me. Keeping that boat wasn't just about keeping something material. It was about keeping a promise to myself, to my father, and maybe even to the man I used to be before life wore me down. People say, don't mess with someone who can park on your lawn. But nobody ever warns you about the guy who parks a 40-foot sailboat in your community pool. Well, hi. I'm that guy. They call me Captain Chaos around here now. And today, I'm going to tell you how I took on the most ruthless HOA you've ever seen, after they stole the one thing that gave me peace, and how I made sure the whole neighborhood watched them go down with the ship. You might think it's crazy to park a yacht where toddlers usually paddle. But when you're pushed hard enough, when your last bit of freedom is ripped away, you find out just how far you're willing to go. So buckle up. This isn't just a petty revenge story. It's a full-blown mutiny, and it all started with a woman named Veronica Klein. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to know where my fellow freedom fighters are tuning in from. Alright, let's set sail.